Hello, my name is Brian Ahern. I was in Peace Corps Micronesia in the Pacific Ocean from 1986 to 1988. I served on the island of Ponape in the village of Saladek. One of my projects as a youth development coordinator was basketball. We created a basketball league island-wide. There were about 10 to 15 volunteers on the main island, plus a lot of missionaries, and we decided basketball was a way to reach the youth. However, we didn't have basketball courts. At my school, we had a cement volleyball court, which I converted into a basketball court. I had to go up into the jungle and drag out poles from old Japanese water pipes from the jungle, and we pulled them out, and we got the United States Army CAT team to help put things together for us. There was about a 13-man Army presence on the island, and then we ended up doing basketball. For that first season, my students had no idea how to shoot a basket. We didn't have baskets. We had to have people stand on chairs, including myself, with their arms out as baskets, and they'd shoot. I also bought a fishing net and cut the bottom out and had the kids climb a pole, hold it out, and that was also our net. We scored a grand total of 2 points that first season. However, we got the court built, and I ended up coaching 3 more teams, and we had tournaments at our school, and my subsequent teams ended up in the playoffs, and we did great. And to fast forward to about 2 years ago, I reconnected with someone on Facebook from the island, and he told me one of the lasting legacies of my service was basketball. He was the son of the governor, so he had already been exposed to basketball, but his comment was, Brian, if you hadn't have done basketball, he would be the only one in the village who knew how to play basketball.
Jonathan Pearson, and I'm served in the Peace Corps in Micronesia, Outer Islands of Yap, from 1987 to 89. My Peace Corps story is not unlike many other Peace Corps volunteers, I'm sure. I decided at a little bit of a later age, in my late 20s, that I wanted to serve my country and go overseas and serve in the Peace Corps. And I was assigned to Micronesia, and it was one of the interesting parts of my story was my contemporaries, my friends at the time in the 80s, all looked at me and said, "Where's Micronesia?" And I said, "I have no idea." But my father and the members of his generation knew exactly where Micronesia was because of World War II and the conflicts that happened. And indeed, on some of the islands out there, there were remnants of the war. And some of the people that were friends of our family had actually served on some of the islands that I visited. So it was interesting to go back in a different era at a different time. One of the other things that was interesting was just seeing how people traveling through colonial periods impacted the language at different levels. There were elements of German, there were elements of Spanish, there were elements of Japanese, there were elements of English in the language that was local to the island that I served on. But in essence, it was an incredible experience. The people that I met and lived with on a very, very small island became a second family, and it's very hard to get to, but one of the amazing things today is that every once in a while I go on the internet and just plug in Lamatrek Atoll and see what pops up. And a couple of times I've come across pictures of my sponsor family who, again, I went back once after my service. It's not easy to get to, but it was really interesting to be able to reconnect in that way, to see that they're still alive and doing well, and along with the correspondence that I occasionally do, it's an interesting way to stay connected in this very interconnected world these days.
My name is John Michael Gudger. I was a Peace Corps volunteer on the island of Pohnpei in the little town of Mand. I taught English as a second language, and I was there from 2007 to 2009. I remember helping install the computer lab at Metalunim High School, and having to figure out how to change the Japanese keyboards into English keyboards. That was a lot of fun.
My name is Kanani Moriarty, and I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Micronesia from 2009 to 2011. I was on the island of Yap in the village of Ma, which is very small, only about 160 people in my village. I lived with a host family for my entire service, and I had a little sister who was about 5 and a little nephew who would come over all the time, and he was about 7. And I'm very into health food, and Micronesians don't eat a lot of vegetables, so I really wanted to educate my little relatives about eating vegetables and eating healthy. So one of my friends sent me 2 cans of mixed vegetables, and this was gold to me. I was so excited about it. But I was like, okay, I'll share it with them. You know, I've been trying to teach them, I've got to show them. So it was the hardest thing to do, but I made a stir fry for them, and I used luncheon meat, Spam, because they're used to that, and I put all the vegetables in, and I put a lot of effort into it. And then I, told them, okay, I've been talking to you about vegetables, so let's try some. And they hated it. They hated it. So they picked out the Spam and ate all the Spam, and then wouldn't touch the vegetables. So I was like, give it to me, it's been so long. But I thought it was hilarious because I had tried so hard to teach them, and they're just, kids are kids across the world, they don't want to eat vegetables. During my service in Yap, I lived with a host family, and I had a little host niece who was like my shadow. She would follow me everywhere. We were partners in crime. Whenever I'd walk to school, she'd walk with me. We'd go to the garden, we'd go run errands together to the store. She was always right by my side. And I joined the village softball team. We were terrible, but we had a lot of fun. So we would practice during the week, and my little sister would always come with me, and she'd just play in the background while we would, do softball. And one day we went to practice, and we had a lot of fun just messing around, and I would throw her the ball, and it was just a lot of fun. And then the heavens opened, and it started pouring rain, just torrential downfall. And we were about 3 miles from our house, on all dirt roads with a canopy of trees, just total outdoors. The dirt turned into mud, these rivers of mud. And so at first, my sister and I were like, oh no, what are we gonna do? So we're walking home really fast. And then after about 5 minutes, we were totally soaked head to toe. And we just started playing in the rain. We were just dancing around because we couldn't get any wetter, and there was no point in trying to stay dry. And it was one of the most magical moments of my service.